In the last video, we talked about the 5 factors that go into officers' programming, how they take their decision parameters from this to this and focus primarily on finding guilt as fast as possible. What we should be teaching our officers to do is to look for truth. Within that wide range of possibilities in the truth realm, you're going to find guilt, but make sure that you're actually finding guilt and not honing it down into such a small area here that you only see guilt and you're blind to the truth. This particularly applies to the Karen Garner case, where we have the 73-year-old woman with dementia, and if they were trained properly in dementia, they would see the signs of dementia. Instead, they see a person that is not cooperating and has committed a crime. Well, it begs a question. Everybody that's seen what she has done so far, usually when somebody takes an item and walks out the store with it, 99% of the time it's going to be somebody who stole the item. So you have this common pattern, the heuristic of when somebody walks out with property, it's a crime. What are the exceptions? What's different about this case? I get in most cases it's a crime. Could it be something else? If we program our officers to think in terms of could it be something else besides guilt, what might explain this, and should that change my approach? Yes. Go back to the pure observation with this case of Karen Garner. Did we see a shoplifting? Think about that for a second. Did we see a shoplifting? No. We saw an individual walk out of a store without paying for items. What's the definition of a theft? What are the legal elements? Taking something from somebody else with the intent to permanently deprive them thereof. With the intent. How did they establish her intent? They established it by pattern. Everybody else has done it. What's different about this? Nobody even asked. You can't see intent. You have to investigate intent. What else might explain what I just saw? Truth. Oh no, I saw a crime. The people calling in, did they report a pure observations or a conclusion? I'm calling in a shoplifting. The officers have to be taught what you get from the reporting parties may be different than reality. They're reporting what they perceived. They don't know to report their pure observations. They start mixing that with conclusions. So you have to be smarter than that. Okay, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? Okay, and also, what kind of crime do I have if $13.88 worth of items were stolen? In California, anyway, I believe it's 490.1. 490.5 of the Penal Code is shoplifting, but I believe the .1 section makes anything under a certain dollar amount, I think it's under $50, an infraction. Wow, so either way, whether it's a misdemeanor or an infraction, it's something that didn't happen in the officer's presence. So that being the case, can they make an arrest for a misdemeanor not committed in their presence? No, they can't. They're looking for guilt. They're not contemplating the law. They're not contemplating the potential for something else explaining what's happening, in this case, dementia. And they're not strategizing for time and resources. Well, how much time is it going to take me to establish truth versus how much time it's going to take me to establish guilt? This happens very quickly and fits right in to these organizations that are understaffed or create cultures whereby hurry, hurry, hurry. Truth takes longer, takes more resources, takes more information. Think back again to academy programming. How much time was spent on dementia? Was any time on teaching them to look for the exception? You may have a crime, or is it just, you might come into contact with people with dementia and this is what they look like? Are we associating that with a crime? You may have a call where the description is old, acting in a certain way, could be dementia, something else, so do you have a crime? No, you have to investigate. The other thing with time, when the officer decides to make contact with Karen, and Karen, in his estimation, is not cooperating. Okay, is she uncooperative? No, she's just not doing what he's asking her to do. Do we know what the intent is? No. Did the officer assume that intent? He absolutely concluded she's doing it on purpose. They're programmed to see guilt, not truth. So then everything that those officers do beyond that point corresponds with guilt, corresponds without not taking the time, corresponds with whatever limited training they have, and corresponds with whatever values have developed within that culture. Organizational culture values and individual personal values. And as you see what these officers were talking about in the the lobby, where they're being recorded by the lobby camera, where Officer Huff, the main officer that put hands on, he seems to have no problem whatsoever with what happened there. Officer Jalali, she said she can't watch it. Might there be some character differences here, but notice how the culture imposes its will even upon character. And so you have to watch about how that drops it down. Bottom line is, for those of us on the outside interested in truth, we're like screaming at the screen, what are you doing, what are you doing, what are you doing? And you'll notice they bring in a consulting firm, and they do this 58-page report after doing this investigation, and you have to analyze what they found, and we'll talk more about that, but part of the assignment is, in the decision-making analysis, if they were even looking at it from that standpoint, they're looking more in terms of what happened. What factor, what variable did they not consider in their analysis, and in terms of what explained what happened? Think about that. That's going to be part of the assignment. So again, point being here, if your officers are trained and programmed to see guilt, to find guilt, to focus on guilt, pretty easy to find that. But you may be in a situation where they're not guilty and truth would have revealed that to you. If you're looking for truth, you can find guilt, but if you're only looking for guilt, you'll miss the truth. And in this case, Karen didn't commit a crime, didn't have the capacity to commit a crime. Even if she did, it was an infraction or a misdemeanor at best. And again, going back to resources real quick, never called for medical, didn't call for adult protective services, didn't call for mental health. She sat in the station holding cell for 5 or 6 hours, still no medical attention, and then take her to the jail. And then they discover all the injuries to her: fractured arm, dislocated shoulder, bruises, scrapes, all that stuff. So how this occurred, we can analyze it and assess from the decision-making parameters: not trained right, bad character, bad culture, not taking the time, looking for guilt instead of looking for truth. And again, the whole leadership aspect of this, the sergeant on scene. What did the sergeant on scene assume? My officers did the right thing. She didn't cooperate. She committed a crime. She got detained for it. No big deal. The private citizen that's off to the side wanting to complain about it is trying to say, hey, what's going on here? And of course, these guys, well, we found the guilt. What are you talking about? We don't want your input. You don't know what you're talking about. Go away. Citizens looking for truth, officers looking for guilt. It makes a massive difference. Again, let me know if you have any questions on that.